Right now, I want to introduce you to a young man who is making his presence felt among young conservative millennials, and that is Nick Fuentes, who's joining me on the phone right now. Nick, how are you?
I'm good, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing well. I want to tell people how you came onto my radar. I'm reading a story from the Boston Globe. It's got your picture right on the front of it. It says, "The kids are far right." Clearly making a pun of a Who song from years ago. But it outlines a bunch of kids who are millennials and tries to paint you as a bunch of extremists. But it sounds to me like you, in particular, after reading your website, are not some extremists like the Boston Globe would like to paint you as. I have to tell you, young man, I'm very impressed with what I've seen here. Tell people, explain to my people here what it is you're doing. I know that you do your own. Is it an internet broadcast right now?
Yes, it's a YouTube show for the Right Side Broadcasting Network.
That's outstanding. What got you involved in this? First of all, I should tell people you are still in college, right? You're at Boston University, and you're from the great state of Illinois.
That's right. I'm originally from LaGrange Park. It's a little bit outside of Chicago, and right now I'm a freshman at BU. That's
awesome. It's always comforting to me when I know that there's still a chance for kids that grow up somewhere near Chicago.
Yeah, me too, because we all know, Chicago and Illinois not doing so hot these past couple of years, right?
Yeah, they're we talk about that here all the time because in our listening area, we've got some of the more common sense Illinoisans who live over here in southern Illinois, and they're constantly impacted by the decisions being made in Springfield and up in Chicago. Tell me what issue are you passionate about right now? What have you been talking about?
Well, the big thing that we've been talking about is globalism. And what we talk a lot about on the show is called America First, is that really the new paradigm that's emerging in the country is not so much this conservative versus liberal, but it's really more about the ruling elites of the country, whether that's in finance or in government or in media, versus we the people. And that manifests itself in all sorts of issues, from immigration to trade to how we deal with radical Islam. But really the systemic core of all of those issues, these are all just symptoms of the fact that we don't control our government anymore. So we try and talk about how this manifests, for example, yesterday in the vote on Montenegro's accession to NATO. This was a vote that was 97-2, and if it was a conservative liberal paradigm, you would hear 50 conservatives saying we should be more aggressive towards Russia, 50 liberals saying we should take it easy. But instead we see the entire mono party, both parties, salivating over this war, over more aggression and overt aggression towards Russia instead.
Yeah, and that's interesting because when I read through some of your writings on this, talking about, you can, by the way, Nick's got his own website, nicholasjfuentes.com. People can go on there and read more about his thoughts on a lot of this, like Israel, for example. I don't want to put you in a box. You tell me where you stand on this. I was one of those conservatives prior to this election talking about how ridiculous the Obama administration's approach to Israel had been. You may or may not agree with that, correct?
Well, my position on Israel has always been that our aid has to be fitted to how they serve American interests. So I don't appreciate a lot of the Obama administration's antagonism towards the Israeli government. It seems kind of petty and underhanded, but I do think that we need to calm down with the fervor for Israel. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed reading the article. He's got a bunch of stuff on his blog you can go on there and read about, and it's interesting to go back and look at your thoughts on some of this stuff from a millennial point of view, which we've got a host on our show on the weekends, Annie Fry, who fits into that category, and I always enjoy having her in here to kind of pick her brain because, you guys are the ones that carry this forward, and I'm always intrigued at where you stand on a lot of these issues that are important to conservatives. Now, do you consider yourself a conservative or more of a libertarian?
Well, I used to consider myself a libertarian back when I was in high school, but ever since this election started to heat up, I've really become more of a far-right conservative, more of a paleo-conservative in the tradition of a Pat Buchanan or a Mark Stein. now I consider myself really a full-throated conservative.
Well, that's good. I mean, I like to hear that because we need more of it. What was your take on, just out of interest, on this healthcare rollback that failed?
Well, I wasn't happy about it, but as I talked about on the show this week and last week a little bit, was that I really didn't think the president was behind this 100%. I don't think we can rule out, I think it's a little premature to rule out that this was some sort of grand strategy, some political play, because, and this is one of the bigger things, it's a striking thing, it's sort of a subtle and small thing, but the president never called the American Health Care Act Trump Care. And I thought that was always significant, that it was behind closed doors. They gave a lot of concessions right away to the Freedom Caucus, and then they let it die and walked away from it. And it was never called Trump Care. It never seemed like he wanted to push this as hard as he could have. And so, I don't know. I think it's premature to say that this was a failure of the president or this was a failure of Paul Ryan. I'm just sort of waiting to see how it turns out in the next couple of months, because it just didn't seem right. It just didn't seem like the mainstream media story that this was some catastrophe was all the way true.
You know, we ran a Twitter poll here on my program asking that question, who do you blame the most? And our four choices were the Democrats, the Freedom Caucus, Paul Ryan, or Donald Trump. Paul Ryan dominated that poll. Almost 50% of the voters of the votes in that poll blamed leadership in Congress for it.
Yeah, I think Paul Ryan is definitely to blame. You see that it was his idea in the first place to start with health care in the first 50 days. It was his idea to try and hit the sweet spot with this terrible bill that was neither conservative nor moderate. It got neither side that he was trying to get. His presentation, him trying to sell it, was horrible. The way that he wrote it in secrecy, underground in Congress, was horrible. I mean, all you had to do was watch Judge Jeanine Pirro's statement on it last Friday, and you pretty much understood that this was owned almost 100% by the speaker. Yeah,
very true. Well, Nick Fuentes, tell people again how they can tune into your internet broadcast, please.
Sure. So you can tune in. It's from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every weekday, Monday through Friday, on the Right Side Broadcasting Network on YouTube. You can catch it on YouTube, or you can follow the Right Side Broadcasting Network at RSBN Network or at Nick J. Fuentes, and I'll be posting the link every day on Twitter. Well,
I think we're going to hear a lot more from Nick Fuentes, and you're an impressive young man to still be in college and have the maturity and the approach that you have on these issues. I've enjoyed talking with you, and I wish you the best.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
You bet, Nick. Hang in there. Wow. Just the level of maturity that you sense in this young man. He's thought-provoking. He's got some provoking thoughts. I've enjoyed chatting with him. And like I said, his website is nicholasjfuentes.com. But he came to my attention from you're never surprised about this out of any newspaper from Boston, the Boston Globe, highlighting Milo Yiannopoulos and referring to Tommy Lahren and these other younger people. I would have to say that Nick Fuentes was the youngest of them. And they try to blame his success on the fact that he says radical right-wing things, and he's just trying to take advantage of the mood of the country. And that's the mistake that the left has made about conservatives for years. For years. From the rise of talk radio and conservative talk radio in this country, that's the mistake the left has made. It's one reason why you've never seen a successful left-wing talk radio program. They failed repeatedly. And because they want to float the idea that conservatives have to listen to somebody on the radio tell them what they think, when nothing could be further from the truth. And I am encouraged when I see people like Nick Fuentes for the future, particularly given the fact the poor kid grew up near Chicago. For God's sake, he's overcome a lot already. 314-969-9797, 866-455-9797. More from this Dr. Farkas, this Obama-era analyst who sort of spilled the beans on MSNBC recently. I want you to hear her full statement, and we'll get to your phone calls when we come back.
This is the Marc Cox Show.
Do you stream FM News Talk 97.1 on your phone? Check out Next Radio. It's an FM tuner built into your phone, so you can stop using up data and save your battery. More details at 971talk.com/nextradio.
Whether you're an experienced homeowner or buying your first house, the first step in getting your new home is to get a lender pre-approval. In today's tight housing market, don't risk losing your dream home because you're not pre-approved. Michael Mohan here to tell you that with a pre-approval letter from Community Mortgage, your offer will be taken seriously. All you need to do is call 314-336-6050 so we can save you money on your new home. Even if you've had past credit issues, there's a good chance we can help. If you're already working with a different lender, let us double check the